Abaco Islands.
5 young boys create a rescue trampoline.
The first to run a marathon in under 2 hours.
We have seen what we thought was unseeable.
A relay of dogs will lead blind runner Tom Panic across the finish line.
Nicolas Mahut lost in the French Open, but then his 7-year-old son ran onto the court to give his dad a big hug.
Her and her sister have been heroes for many little girls out there.
I want to thank my amazing mom. She's my hero.
I love you.
Exactly what I was thinking.
When you are free to be you, it is the best feeling in the world.
He's the Sully Sullenberger of pizza.
My family is making a grant to eliminate their student loans.
We know deep down what's right and what's needed.
I'm going to fight this.
Who says I can't? Nobody! Here it comes. Never been done in competition.
The category is love, y'all. Love.
Use your heart, your courage and vision to fix, to heal, to empathize, to connect. Because living life for something bigger than yourself is a hero's journey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Lisa Wisner, and I couldn't be more excited to be your host of the show Power Up Hero, which is a show all about you. Yes, this show is about you being the hero of your story, and I bring to you my hero. Hi, Megan. How's it going?
How's it going, Lisa?
I always love being in a space with you. You know, I feel like there's so much energy, but I'm even more excited because today, Megan, we're talking about communication. We're talking about the number one way that we communicate, right? You know, you and I are both Toastmasters, so we always vibe on the fact that before your voice is even heard, you've communicated so much. Yeah, so we're talking about body language, Megan. We're talking about body language. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too, because so many people, they just don't hear with their ears. They hear with everything these days. Their eyes, what you're saying by you, the way you pick up your phone. The way you have your phone on the table, if it's put down or put up. There's so many things to take into consideration now. And so I'm really excited to get to know who our next speaker is, because I know that if there's this theme, then she is probably the guru of this body language thing.
Can I just say something? You don't even know who the guest is, Megan. And let me just drop it right now. Our guest today is Alison Henderson, who is a body language expert. She is the founder and CEO of Moving Image Consulting. And this person that we're bringing to you today actually uses the words listening with your eyes, Megan. And you've never met her before, have you?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm like, how did you know she was going to say that? So that's definitely going to be something that is going to be part of the conversations today. We all think about listening with what? How do we listen? Since you were in kindergarten, we listen with our ears, right? In kinder. Okay, no. With this guest today, it's a whole other thing, and it's about perspective. And so, Megan, for our lesson today, I wanted to vibe a little bit on perspective and reality. And so I really do want to bring this on because I believe that as heroes, we should have perspective. We should have perception, whether it's reality or not. So let me ask you, Megan, have you ever been in a situation that caught you completely off guard? I mean, literally, when you first started, your mood was like, I got this is awesome. And then, you're shocked, completely caught off guard, and you just totally go into anxiety. Has that ever happened to you?
I'm like, we live in life. When doesn't that happen to us?
Yeah. That's life, right? That's exactly what's expected. And so for me, I just wanted to vibe on the fact that as a hero, we have to think about preparing ourselves for those situations when they happen, because we're going to learn a lot about body language today. And your face and maybe your body in general does not hide. You know, people say you got a poker face. I don't have one of those. Whatever those were, they were not given to me when we were being given our gifts. I didn't get that. And Megan, I know you've told me that before, like, Lisa, it's all over your face, you know. It's all there. And so I have to tell you, as a hero, that is totally fine, because you're probably living your authentic life. I think I'm not trying to hide anything from anyone, so you can totally see how I'm feeling. But I also feel like when you're caught off guard, it's a sign of strength. It's really a sign of physical and maybe even mental strength, because we, as being heroes today, and this is something that I struggled with recently, and I wrote this down, and I really want to make sure that there's an understanding of this, that we are here today in this hero space to learn more about cultivating strength together. So having control is about having a sense of control of yourself and what happens. And that sense of control actually shapes your destiny versus just passively giving people, you know, I guess, communication that you don't even want to leave your mouth, but you're already communicating. Does that make sense?
100% sense. What you're saying, at least what you said there at the very end, was being able to respond instead of react.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so the lesson for today, if I may, Megan, is that we definitely have to think about when we go to the gym, we work out physically, right? But I think also working out mentally in terms of being able to control, right, what we're doing. Because sometimes, you know, there's this awesome quote by Mike Tyson. He talks about how everybody's got a plan, or everybody's having a great day until they get punched in the mouth, right? It's like, whoa, what just happened? And then now everything, it's like fight or flight. You're stressed out. You don't know what to do. Mental strength, right? Courage and centering yourself is really important. So for me personally, I always have to work on that. And that was a true lesson for me recently, that I need to work on my mental strength. So let's go ahead and get started with introducing our guest today. You know, this show is about celebrating and shedding a spotlight on outstanding individuals in our community who have gone above and beyond in the call of duty, as you could say, in terms of the role that they're in. We try to bring you different perspectives, and today we welcome Alison Henderson, who's going to be teaching us about body language and virtual presentation expertise. Alison is a powerhouse in the world of body language expertise. One of the things that I want to point out about Alison's bio is that she is one of only 22 movement pattern analysts in the world, which links body language signals in the brain. In the world, y'all. I'm not even kidding here. I just really need it to be known that we're speaking to one of 22 of something out of 7 billion people on this planet. As the founder of Moving Image Consulting, Alison provides proven strategies for improving how you give and receive body language signals to create powerful communication. When the world turned virtual, Alison quickly became sought after. She became sought after for improving your body language through the screen. You can watch her TED Talk, which, by the way, we're going to be streaming to you here, just a little bit of a portion of it. You can view her TED Talk where she talks about virtual communication and how important it is to pay attention to your box, right? What your box is telling. And so she helps clients and she helps organizations move from confusing and overwhelming communication to clear, confident, and concise speakers. And so, everybody watching, I want to welcome to you our power-up hero of body language, Alison Henderson. Welcome, Alison. Welcome.
Big claps for you, Alison. 22. I'm stuck there at that part of the intro.
Well, it's very boutique training in observation and the linking what you see to the decision making and cognitive processes in the brain. So when I decided that I wanted to specialize or bring body language to business and into the world in a different way, I was really looking for something that I could train in that was more scientifically based. I didn't feel like I wanted to just read a bunch of body language books of I can tell you're lying in 5 seconds or something. And I wanted to have a foundation that was based on it's really based on the science behind and the psychology behind decision making and how we actually show that on our bodies. So as we get into things today, there'll probably be some tips that come out on, oh, did you just see what you just did? All the people at home. So if you happen to be only listening to this on the podcast, this is actually when you may want to go back and watch the actual I won't
Okay.
touch it because there will probably be some nonverbal things that we'll be teaching from the screen.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so did you hear? We are getting a lesson. Okay, so everyone, go grab your notepad and your pen or pencil. Be ready to learn because there's a lesson coming. We have Linda Herndon. Hello, Linda. Thank you for watching. That opening is amazing. Goosebumps and tears. Amazing team. We love you. We love you, Linda. So we used to work with Linda, right? So we're so excited. And then we have, how do you say, is it Jayla? I thought it was
Josh.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, what is this name? I don't even know this name. You know, people have been changing their names.
Yeah.
So Josh Sosa, hey Josh, good to see y'all again. Yes, hopefully you stay tuned. So send any questions you have for Alison. But we'll go ahead and get started with I guess Alison just kind of set it up here. So I'm being very conscious about my body language. I don't even know how, because now I'm thinking anything I do, the way I'm blinking, my eyes, I don't know if she's gonna like tell me something. I don't know. But let's go ahead and get started with the first question, which is, Alison, tell us, who are you? Where do you come from? How did you grow up? What made you love this thing called body language?
Oh, I am a Midwest girl. I grew up in Ohio and now I live outside of Chicago. I came into body language as a specialty because my undergrad and then my graduate degree, which is actually what brought us to Chicago, I have my master's degree in directing and dramaturgy from Roosevelt University. So I come from a theater background, so it probably is of no shock to anybody that kind of body language might be where I would land as a consultant. But I was really noticing in my day jobs, because you have to have a day job to support your theater habit, as I like to say, and I was noticing that there was so much more drama in the offices that I was working in than there ever was on my stage when I went to direct my actors at night. And sometimes I would make comments to them like, could you bring some of the drama that I'm seeing in the conference room to this scene, please? And I noticed that a lot of it was in the way people were communicating, and really more often than not missing communication signals or not communicating. So my specialty is this thing called movement pattern analysis, and there's only, I believe, 22 of us right now certified in the world to do this. And it is so helpful for leadership and in the business world because it's linking to decision making. And usually the problem that people have between one another is actually not as personal as we like to make it or as we think it is. It's often that my process of thinking is just different from you. And that means that suddenly I don't like you, or I don't understand why we're not communicating well, because I think that my way of making a decision is correct and superior than everybody and everybody else out there. And the other person is thinking that the way they're making the decision is the right way to do it. And so that's where a lot of the tension in our teams and in our businesses come from, or from even a business development, from a sales standpoint, why you may or may not get along with some clients or customers better than others. It's often a way that you're processing the information. And so what I teach is not only the signals that you're sending to others and how do we make those better, how do we improve the signals we're sending, but also how do you read that person across from you and understand a little bit better what's going on in their brain so that you can communicate the way they want you to say things. Because again, it shouldn't be about us. It should be about the relationship. It should be about the other person. And if we can key into what they need us to say or how they need us to say it, then we can go a long way to only saying things once, which is phenomenal. We don't have to necessarily tell our teams 3 times to do something because they've really heard it the first time, because we're vocalizing it in the way that they need to hear it. And then you support that with the body language that actually matches your words, and then it's, lights out, so powerful. And that's what I bring to public speakers, and I coach TED Talks and a lot of other things, is making sure that the words they've kind of written down or scripted for themselves are being supported by the right body language signals, because that's usually when you lose your audience, or people go, they were good, but there was just something I didn't, and they can't put their finger on it because it's subconscious. We don't know, but our gut is telling us that
so
it's weird here, right?
Yeah, you're bringing in how we connected. So we kind of vibe on TED, right? So we're both like into TED, like we love TED, right? So you help people become better TED speakers. You've given a TED talk yourself, so we're going to talk about that. But I want to bring up the fact that you brought up that we all have different processes of thinking and processes of decision making. Wow, I never like even thought about the fact that the way I'm processing in my mind is going to show up in my nonverbal communication.
Right.
Yeah. So it's important to be on the same page, almost like even in terms of communicating how we're going to make this decision before we even start having the conversation. I don't know.
Well, the more you get to know the people around you, right? There's oftentimes you go into a meeting with people that you've known for years, and you're already thinking, well, I know how they're going to react. Mm-hmm. So because you have this rapport and you've gotten to know them so well, or family members, you kind of know how to, or our children are brilliant at manipulating us, right? I know my boys they're brilliant at and they figure that out. But somehow as adults, we tend to take on protocols and decorums, and we think we're supposed to act a certain way, or there's a lot of head trash that I'm sure you've talked about with other guests, and think, we need to get rid of what a lot of other people have told us about ourselves. And sometimes that's some of the work that I do, particularly with my one-on-one clients, is they'll say, well, people have always told me, and that's a red flag for me, because people will say, people have always told me that I use my hands too much, or people have said that I'm so high energy that I need to tone it down a bit. And that to me, like, just makes my skin crawl, because I'm like, that's getting onto your own authenticity. Like, I don't want to damper that. If they come to me and they say, can you fix, I use my hands too much, can we fix that? And I'll be like, well, I don't want you to think that there's anything broken about you. Let's look at the nonverbals that you send and let's improve those. Or let's look, maybe there's a time or a topic that starts to make you a little bit nervous. And then, we tend to use full gestures because we get nervous. Maybe there's something else that we should be looking at, rather than just you thinking you have to sit on your hands during the meeting. Because the minute we stop moving authentically, it's almost like sometimes our brains don't work anymore. If you use a lot of nonverbals to help your brain work, you can't just cut those off. So I would say, even in this little conversation we've had, I can see the forward momentum and the visionary style that I think that you have. And I'm wondering if you tend to, on your thought process, rather than necessarily starting at the beginning with lots of information, you come across to me as a real doer, and the one that wants to like get right in and just get moving and get things done. And so when you're communicating, I might start from there. I might start from the goal or the vision that we have for the project, and then work back, rather than starting with lots of information, because you're going to respond to, all right, this is the vision, this is the goal, this is everything.
Okay. We're going to have to stop this video because you're hacking me right now, and I don't need everybody to know my business, okay?
You're reading Lisa like a book.
But I will tell you, it's this forward and backwards. So just for everybody out there, if you see a lot of forwards and backwards from people, we call it the sagittal plane. It has fancy words, but the lean in, I call it the lean in or the lean back. Yeah. That signal alone cues you in on, okay, I need to be talking about process and goals, or I need to be talking about action steps and timeline.
What award are we going to win, Allison? What award are we winning for our wall? Like, don't give me details. Tell me what award we're winning, and we'll talk details later. No, I'm kidding.
Right, exactly. And some people, they, and then the other side of it, the other person on your team that's like, whoa, we're moving too fast here. We need to dot our I's and cross our T's, and we need more information. We can't just go for this until we know everything about the client that we're going after, or what, right? So that's where the friction comes in. It's not personal. It's that we think differently, and we want to process and progress differently. And as a manager, if you know that, then I put you in charge of, right, the timelines and the deadlines and those kinds of things. And I put the information-driven person that likes to go down the rabbit hole on the internet and just research forever. I put them on that part of the project, right? Because then everybody's happy and everybody's doing what their genius really is. And then, we get things done so much faster because people are like, wow, this is awesome. I loved doing that project. But if I'd switched it and I'd given you the information part, you'd be like, oh, I gotta come back with like 5 choices of companies and blah, 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 right? And people get down on that, right? And sometimes you're the solopreneur and you got to do it all, but you still need to know what your own preference is, because that may be where you tend to procrastinate, or that may be where you kind of fall down even in your own sales conversations to somebody else about your business. Yeah. Because I do that all the time. I'm more of I'm like you. There was kismet right away. I was like, oh, she's one of my people, because you'll see me. I do a lot of the forward and backward too, because it's all about, the goals and the vision and let's see what we can do together. And a lot of times from a sales position, I can see, and then I'm like, oh, back it up, Alison, because you can tell you're kind of turning them off because you're so gung-ho. Yeah. Right from the beginning of like collaborating and things like that. Yeah. And so sometimes I have to back it up and be like, all right, give them some more information, take a breath.
I've heard it. Oh my God, you said the one thing that people say to me that literally turns me off. And I don't know why. When take a breath. Oh my gosh. You need to get excited. I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes when I'm passionate about something and someone tells me to calm down, and I'm excited about it, it's almost like, okay, what do you want from me, right? So right, it's like therapy right now.
That's my strength, right? That just gets to the core of our strength as passionate, excited sort of people, and it took me a while in my business to even kind of go back and embrace that, because for a while there it was like, oh, well, you need to look more consultant-like, or there was some of the people were giving me that sort of feedback where I thought for myself, maybe I need to look a little bit more corporate. Maybe I need to come in and look a certain way. I thought it was like, no, you need to go back to who you are, and then the right people will be attracted to you, rather than attracting people that think they want corporate, kind of thing. That's really not what I go in and do. I'm too much of a hands-on type of person. So when we get back to more face-to-face kinds of things, like training, it's getting in there and saying, did you see what that person just did? Yeah. That means this. Or, did you notice that? Now, how would you respond? What does that mean to you? And so it really is learning a new language. And so most of the struggle that I have a lot in business, and maybe there's a lot of people out there that find the same thing, is that like the quick tip tricks, there's certainly a handful of those, but it'll keep you passionate and excited for about a week. And then you're going to go back to your old habits. And then you're going to think, well, that training didn't work. So a lot of my conversation with leaders and executive leadership and things is like, okay, this is learning a language. You wouldn't expect me to come in and teach your team Spanish in an hour. So, I can get them excited about learning Spanish in an hour. I can't teach them Spanish in an hour. So if you really want me to give them the tools that they need to observe another human being, we need to look at several times that I come in and work with them. It can't just, it's not just going to be a 45-minute or an hour long, lunch and learn. It's like, it takes a little bit more than that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we can move on to the next question, which is, so one of the things that we wanted to find out from you is we're calling you the PowerUp hero of body language. So what does being a hero mean to you?
I love this question. I think it's all about stepping up when you see something that's needed. And it can really happen in any situation. And it doesn't mean that it needs to be a huge thing. It could literally be just more of the opening the door, for somebody kind of thing. It could be helping somebody cross the street. It could be a lot of little things, but it takes that certain level of vulnerability to be able to kind of set your own goals and your own needs and things aside for another person. So to step into that role into, I think is what really makes those everyday heroes, the people that we run into all the time that don't maybe necessarily get the accolades that some other people do.
Yeah. And I like how you said that, because I think a lot of times when we think about being a hero, you know, we see what we see on TV, people who are receiving the awards, but it's important to know that you may be a hero to somebody else and not even realize it, right? So can I say something like, there's even situations where just a look, right? So something's going on and somebody literally just gives you a look like they see you, right? And they see what's going on. That in itself is heroic, right? Like they may not have the ability to have action and do something and say it with their voice, but the fact that they make you feel like they got you, like I see what's going on right now, or I have this situation in my frame too, we're both aligned, that makes a difference, right?
Absolutely. There can be sometimes that's all it takes, particularly because when you do start listening with your eyes and we get out of our phones and we look up, right? We take in the world around us. Who is it that just needs that smile of encouragement to speak up or to maybe keep going if they've been acknowledged, particularly maybe somebody young has just joined your team or your firm. Maybe they just need that little smile of encouragement, like you have something important to say. Go ahead and share it and that kind of just emboldens them to say what it is that they have on their mind. And that helps with the entire team, right? So it's not just everybody kind of in it for themselves. It can be, I'm here and I'm here to support you and I care about you rising up just as much as me.
I have a question for you, Alison. So I am definitely the type of person who thinks that everything means something. And sometimes it's to a point where I might even drive myself crazy because I'm like, well, they did that and they did this and they said this. And then I'm there like in my head, because to me, everything means something. Like you didn't just do that for no reason. How often is that true? Do people do things with no intention sometimes?
I don't think that they do it without intention. I think they don't know that they have that intention. They're not cognizant of this is what I want, and so this is what I'm doing to get it. I think our brains are so much smarter and they always know that there's a reason that we're doing everything that we're doing. And as far as the overwhelm part goes, and I absolutely hear you there, and that's where I get worried again with those like 45-minute or hour-long sort of trainings, that then people kind of come back to me and they're like, well, people move into 3D, Alison, it's not that easy. And I'll say, you're right, it isn't. But when it comes to observing somebody else, it really is training yourself to kind of take in the big picture and then what do you see the most of and go off of that rather than trying to look into the minutia of every little thing that they're doing, or if their eyes are going to the left or to the right, or so many. It takes you into your brain. It takes you inward into a bunch of rules that you've read about or heard somebody say, or, well, if their eyes go look up and to the left, and if they look up and to the right, they need something else. But that takes you out of relationships. So if you really are observing and saying, what am I seeing the most of that I can respond to? And so that's really where I approach, and maybe that's where my approach is slightly different from other body language folks, is I still want it to be accessible and doable. I don't want it to feel like it's an overwhelming thing. It should be support to all the other skill sets that you have, rather than feeling like a burden that, okay, now I have to read this other person with my eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
It should be, what information am I receiving? Because if over 70% of our communication is nonverbal, what can I use from this information to improve the conversation? Not, oh my gosh, they're they did this with their fingers and then their toes pointing towards the door. And what does that mean? And wait, now they crossed their legs. And so which leg is pointing towards me? Because that's supposed to mean something different than the other leg pointing towards me. I mean, there are so many rules out there. If you go down the rabbit hole of the internet and look for, body language do's and don'ts, you're inundated with a lot of things that are taken out of context. And so a lot of what I spend time doing is taking that step back and looking at the whole. So that's what I would suggest for you to do when it starts to feel overwhelming, is just kind of open your view a little bit more and say, okay, so what's my overall feeling? Is this person with me or is this person against me? Because our gut will always let us know. We just need to know how to interpret it. So I'm kind of here as the body language interpreter of your gut feeling of, I really like this person, or I'm not so sure about this person, or I know there's something going on or I don't like this person. Because fight or flight is usually, I think you already mentioned that kind of fight or flight is what usually happens when we're meeting somebody, because our reptilian brain, our limbic brain is what is it's still around and it still rules the roost, when it comes to how comfortable you are. And so our job is to give really good nonverbals so that we create a comfortable environment to help put people at ease.
So Megan, that was such a great question, because I think the point here is that we're being observant, but we could be overly observant, right? So we could be going to the next level and then creating stories. I feel like in your mind, you start to create all these stories of things aren't even happening, right? And then you're not even listening to the voice. And so it's just all this noise. So it actually tags on to what I want to know, which is the power up here of body language. What is your superpower? If we were to pull a superpower, like, Superman can fly, all these amazing superpowers that everybody seems to have that I don't seem to have, magical powers, I should say, right? What would be your superpower, Alison?
I think it comes down to observation. And we have really, as a society, we've gotten out of really opening our eyes up and observing other people. It becomes more, we're in our heads and we're thinking about our response, right? Thinking to respond or listening to respond rather than listening to understand. All of those, there's lots of studies out there on that sort of thing. And we've become well isolated, of course, during this time, but also if you walk down the street, there's so many people, they're just in their own world because they're talking into their earbuds, talking to somebody on the phone. Or if you're riding any kind of public transportation, nobody looks up and nobody looks at anybody because we're in our phones, or we're streaming something and we're watching something on the device that we have in our hand all the time. So I think the superpower that you bring when you start to study body language is just the observant, being more observant of our surroundings and of the people in it, and what we can do so that we do see those people that need that smile, or we do notice the person that needs some help crossing the street or needs the door open for them or something. I mean, it's just, I think as a society, we've kind of, it's part of that, I suppose, self-centeredness or narcissistic tendencies or whatever that people want to talk about. But if we just open our eyes a little bit, we'll have natural empathy, and so many other things will just sort of come naturally because our bodies are trained to take this in. It's something we've been doing ever since we were born, and for hundreds of years as human beings, we observe other people's behavior. Even before we could speak, we communicated through grunts and things, right? I mean, we used body language to decide. Or when you go to a different country and you don't speak the language, you can still kind of, through your sign language or the body language stuff that you do, you can kind of get your point across. So we're primed to take that in. It's just I think we've tended to put it on the back burner, or we've let it slide because it's always there. But if we don't use the skills that we have, then they're going to atrophy just like anything else.
I have a great question, or I think it's a great question. I don't want to let it slip before we go on, because you mentioned being on the bus or a subway and people being on their cell phones. How has technology changed your industry? I can imagine that before technology came, you were sitting on a bus, you didn't have a choice but to look up and look around and interact with people. But now, if you don't want to talk to somebody, you put those earphones on, you're looking down, and it's almost like a sign of don't bother that person because they're busy, or don't bother that person because they're on the phone. How has tech changed the body language theory or industry?
Well, it definitely has, I think, lessened our awareness of how other people behave in relation to how we behave, because we're just not taking it in as much. And I think I believe it has kind of hurt our natural ability to just be friendly and collaborative and societal, if that makes sense, because I see that in our young people, particularly that are coming up. You know, the idea of speaking out loud to somebody is like, they're like, I'll just text them. Well, you could call them. No, I'll just text them. Or I ask my own kids about, well, did you ask the teacher, or did you put your hand up in class and ask the question? Like, if you didn't understand, oh no, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't want to. So we've become so independent in a way that we're not using, I think, society, or there's this new strange reticence to speak up and do some of those things. On the other hand, I will say I think technology has helped in a few ways as well. I mean, I think virtually, people right at the very beginning, it was all, oh my gosh, I hate Zoom or Teams or whatever platform their company was using to gather together. And it took some preaching by me to be like, okay, but think about this. You have everybody's on the screen simultaneously for you to take in that information and watch them, or to use the information from the screen. Yes, it's different than in real life. The energy, you feel a little differently, but you can learn to use virtual to your advantage. And when it comes to turning cameras on and things like that, I get so many managers that are like, I just can't get them to turn their cameras on. But I'll say, you know what? Maybe you need to tell them, like, it's FaceTime with me as your manager when you turn your camera on. So if you want to go after that next promotion, you probably want that face-to-face time. So I would suggest that you turn your cameras on. Or if you're, these younger people that, because I was asking some 20-somethings, I said, oh, you guys are probably so much better on Zoom, or so much more comfortable because you do so much Instagramming and Snapchatting, or all the, you're more used to technology. And I was really surprised to hear them say, oh yeah, no, we don't turn our cameras on either. And I was like, you don't? It's not like, no, because, if we don't look good, or if the lighting's not good, or whatever, the whole Instagram filter thing, they don't have that on Zoom, I guess. And so I was like, wow. I said, but you realize that you're making it more difficult for people to recognize you, or to see when you want to speak, or all of these things. So I think virtual has helped people realize that technology can be a tool to understanding human behavior and things if we just use it in the right way. So I'm hoping that all the training that I do virtually, and I tell them the signals that I'm teaching you through the screen are the same signals that you see in real life.
Yeah.
That, right? You still see people, the shoulders, or if you meet somebody for coffee, you're pretty much still only seeing them from the waist up because there's a table there.
You can't.
So all the signals that we're teaching you, they're the same.
Yeah, underneath their leg is shaking and they're freaking out or whatever, but you don't see all of that, right? You just see the top.
Yeah, I mean, all that toe theory and leg theory, I get it from a body, and I know it's true, and they've studied it, but unless you're constantly dropping your napkin or your pen or something to look under the table to see what somebody's feet are doing, I do a lot more with secret shoulders than I do.
You said give somebody a tip. Don't do that. Don't tell people. Now you're gonna find people dropping pencils to
look under the table. What are their toes doing under the table? Are they tapping their toes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what I appreciate is the fact that the virtual spaces that we're able to move into, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, whatever the platform is, now they have this effect where you can blur your background. Because I think whenever we went into this remote work, work from home environment, a lot of people, they don't want to share their home. It's a sense of like privacy, right? Where you work, where you are. You may see your coworker's workspace and go, oh my gosh, I'm at my kitchen table. You should see the back. My kids are like, it's crazy back there. And so I have to say thank you to all the technology companies who provide us virtual, because we can blur our backgrounds. We can put green screens and kind of like be in a safer space. I feel like that may help people turn their cameras on. But with that, I think we should take just a little break. And what we're going to do during the break is actually watch a little TED Talk that you did, Alison. So just through a little bit of research, I found that you've actually given a TED Talk. I knew that you help people with their TED Talks, but this is even better. You have given a TED Talk, and it's specifically, get this, Megan, it's about virtual communication, how to be better at virtual communication. So everybody watching, we'll be right back.
What if it were the year 2024? It might be difficult to imagine right now, but what of this new normal might be here to stay? Zoom calls come to mind. Who would have thought that Zoom, the service, would so quickly come to represent an entire industry of virtual communication? It's like saying Google or Kleenex or Popsicle. Now, I know most of you may hope that Zoom goes away when we stop saying social distancing, but let's take a step back. Most businesses were already using some form of virtual communication before the crisis. Nobody thought much of it until everything turned virtual overnight. Our meetings to our birthday parties, morning yoga, conferences, everything in between turned virtual. And now we have a new buzz phrase in our vocabulary, Zoom fatigue.
Yay! Congratulations!
Thank you!
Yeah, so for those of you who are watching right now, you can go and Google Alison Henderson on TED.com, and you will be able to see the full talk where Alison actually unpacks for us Zoom, right? So I know you speak about Zoom specifically, but we're talking about the virtual space, how to be a better communicator in the virtual space. And you talk about, like, I guess you call it the box, you talk about your body language, but how did it feel to give a TED Talk that was relevant to today?
Well, it was amazing and strange, and we actually recorded that. You could tell we were at, this was TEDx Wrigleyville, and so we actually filmed at Wrigleyville because there was no baseball going on last year. So
it looks like I was gonna mention, sorry, it looks like our Whataburger field, right, Megan?
It does, yeah. I had to do a double take real quick.
It looks exactly like, literally, it's the same thing.
Yeah, we were at Wrigley Field, and we had to delay the filming by 2 days because this was right during the riots and the unrest and the looting and everything that was happening in Chicago. And the day that we were supposed to film was June 4th, maybe, or something like that. And that was the day that they picked that they were going to be doing their protesting actually in Wrigleyville, like surrounding the stadium. So we ended up doing it 2 days later, and driving into the city and having it, all those places boarded up because of the looting and everything, and having it really be like a ghost town. Because this is Chicago, it's not a ghost town. I mean, this Wrigley Field, there's it's so much activity, but it was really kind of chilling. And of course, the theme of this whole TEDx was the pandemic, and so to be able to bring people some bit of, okay, so let's accept this. We're here. Oh, how do we use this better? What can we do body language wise to work on this? So when you watch it, you'll see I sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes, because that's the way to help people remember how to be better on their Zoom calls, or kind of what to do in the moment. You can think through those points. And it was a real honor to be chosen to do it. And then TED Global actually picked it. There were maybe 4 out of the 16 talks that we did that day or something that were chosen by TED, like the big TED, to be put on their website. So it's not just on TEDx Wrigleyville, it's on TED.com as well, and which was fantastic to be able to share in a time when everybody really was, because in June it was still this. We were much more nervous about things really kind of than we are now with the vaccines and things that have come in. Not that virtual is going to go away, but it really did shut everything down and we turned virtual overnight. So it was really great to be asked to comment on that.
So before we get into, go ahead. Did you have something to add, Megan?
I will wait because you know me with my questions.
Okay. Well, before we go into any of the fun, I do want to point out for anybody who's watching right now that part of the conversation about coronavirus and just staying at home, being in a pandemic, we have to learn to re-socialize, which is something that I've heard. And when we talk about communication, a lot of times when you are in the office, maybe you have masks on and you're not seeing the full body language, because I think that's part of it too, right? Seeing the mouth, seeing the cheeks, seeing all of that, right, makes a difference. I've actually had somebody tell me that wearing a mask helps me. I didn't even know what that meant. Like when I wasn't wearing a mask, was something wrong with the way my body language was? I don't even know. But the point is, like, I was like, maybe does it make me look meaner? I don't know. Like, anyway, the point is there's something to be said about not seeing the full face, right? So one of the things I can ask you though is, like, I've seen on your website that you're actually hosting a boot camp or some sort of a course where you're going to help executives learn how to re-socialize back into work, where people have kind of stopped. It's like a muscle, right? You stopped using that muscle. How do you re-socialize back to the workplace?
Right. That is going to be starting as soon as it's full. So probably by the end of May or so, we'll start that. And it is a program where that's exactly what we're talking about. How do you help your teams and your employees feel comfortable again when we've only had our little pod of our immediate family or something that we've really socialized with for quite a long time? And a lot of things will end up being hybrid because of the idea that some work from home will continue, or at least certain days of the week is what everybody's trending and saying. Now that people have a little taste of autonomy, they want to keep that idea of owning their schedule a little bit more. So there will probably be, most of our meetings now will be half the people virtual and half the people in person. So how do you as a manager make sure that you're not ignoring the people that are on the screen and only talking to the people that are in the room? So there'll be some of that sort of thing. And then also just that human element. Besides, what dismays me just a little bit is I feel like there's a lot of talk from the legality side of things on, can we ask people if they've been vaccinated, and how do we do that if we've decided that we're going to make that some kind of requirement, or the safety protocols and those sorts of things are being highlighted. But the human beings that are coming back to work, how comfortable are they? And are they going to be comfortable being in a conference room? So this is going to be that reading the room and reading the body language of your teams to figure out what their level of comfort is. And then in starting those conversations and giving, so right now you see me doing it. I'm giving I will be encouraging our executives to be tapping into this upper body, because this is the part that shows collaboration. This is the part of the body that we tend to stiffen up the minute we become uncomfortable. So they'll be watching for non-movement in their employees, but then they will also be needing to relax and give signals of, I'm here for you. This is a warm, collaborative place. Let's open the conversation to figure out and set maybe some rules for ourselves. Do you want us to stop at the door and knock and both put masks on before entering if we're not both vaccinated? Or do you, what are you comfortable with people drinking coffee in the room with you and dropping their mask? Or is that something that we should put on hold for now? Like letting everybody kind of come up with the rules together, I think will be really helpful. And so I keep calling it re-entry. I feel like everybody was like, yay, when the space shuttle goes up, and all the the attention is when the space shuttle is going up, but the re-entry is the really, really scary part, right? When everything's burning up and it's all red and and you know, and that sort of thing. So we have to watch out for that, right? That we do this re-entry in a way that is it keeps to furthering our relationships at work rather than kind of, because it's going to be weird. You know, we're not going to be shaking hands now. We're not going to know. And so we need to start reading those body language signals, or, you know, is everybody going to do the elbow thing, which is pokey and kind of weird? Or the toe tap thing that became a weird thing. That was weird, you know, and I feel like that's it. People think it's going to be normal. I think they're like, yeah, we can go back to the office. But the first time you go in and then you're in an elevator with another person and you're both like this on both sides of the elevator. For the few times that I've actually gone downtown to Chicago, you know, it's a little weird. How are we going to do that?
Oh my gosh, you're bringing up like everything that I've experienced and heard and felt, and I'm like, I just want to go home. Like literally, you just want to go home.
Right. As much as we say we want to be around people, it's gotten to the point where it's been so long.
Yeah.
That I think that little introvert that we all have, or depending, you know, we've kind of gotten comfortable, and I'll admit it. Like the thought of having to get in the car and drive somewhere and pay for parking and do stuff to go to a networking meeting or something, it is not enticing, really, right? So there's going to be a little bit of gearing up, in a sense, even, you know, setting the clock back in time to go do the commute and those kinds of things, rather than throwing on a shirt and walking downtown and walking downstairs and opening up the computer and starting your 7 a.m. meeting. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of things that, you know, we have to ease into and give people the same grace that we gave them at the beginning of the pandemic. I think we're going to need to have some of that same grace on this reentry.
Yeah. Like these back-to-back Zoom meetings obviously can't continue, right? So it has to turn into, some people have to actually walk from one conference room to the next, or drive from one building to the next building. So you got to give everyone time. So I think for those of us who maybe work remote 100%, it's going to be a good thing when people go back.
Right. There's going to be a little, okay. And that was one of the things I think it's even in the TED Talk. You know, you do need to, I say, in between every meeting, get up and walk around. Even if it's just literally walking around your desk and sitting down.
Yeah.
You used to do that in the office, and your brain needs that task transition time. So this is where the body and the brain are connected. It's very difficult to just click on the next meeting, because you have at least something to cue your body that something's different, or we've shut the door on that meeting and then we're moving into something else.
Yeah.
And with Zoom, that was one of the things that we really lost. And one of the reasons why Zoom fatigue became such a big deal is because we weren't giving ourselves that few minutes. Yeah. It's just like when you go from class to class, when you were in college or when you're in high school or whatever, you know, there's a 5-minute break, or there's a 4-minute walk period to go to the next thing. And our bodies and our brains need that transition time.
Yeah.
So we definitely have seen a lot of your superpowers. Being on camera is definitely a superpower. You're the PowerUp hero of body language. You're a great speaker, great orator. I mean, there's so many amazing superpowers that you definitely have. Tell us, what is one of the weaknesses or challenges of being the PowerUp hero of body language?
It's figuring out how to say what it is that I do, honestly. Because as soon as you say, you know, that whole, you know, networking thing of, so what do you do? Oh, well, I'm a body language expert. You know, everybody's like taken aback and they don't want to move anymore. And they think I'm judging them, or that I'm analyzing them in the moment. So breaking that down. And so sometimes I would say that I just, you know, I help executives with their communication, or but then it's, what the cool part is that I come at it from the body language side. So then, like, how do I say that? Or so it took a long time to figure out kind of. So now I usually say I'm a body language interpreter, and I help people figure out, you know, why their gut is saying they like somebody or don't like somebody. Or I try to keep it simple so that it doesn't feel like they don't feel judged in the moment. Or sometimes we say, I don't turn my eyeballs on until I have a contract, so we can just have a conversation, kind of thing, because people they get nervous around me, or they say, oh, it must be really hard to be married to you because you know everything your husband's thinking, or some of those kinds of things. That's really been the biggest challenge, is kind of convincing people that that I'm not judging them. And I think a lot of that comes from so much of the body language information that had been out there, or the way that it's used on television programs. We still haven't figured out what's the name of that one. Yeah, there's a television show where the dude figures out, basically I can tell what you're thinking, or I can read you like a book, and all of those things usually had to do with deception, or can you tell whether somebody's lying or not? And so getting people to think, oh, this is really connected to empathy and social emotional intelligence, and being able to read somebody to improve our communication. It doesn't have to be, I'm looking to see if you're lying to me, where I think some people's first thoughts is that's what I do, is I help people decide if somebody's lying. And there are body language experts that's what they focus on, but that's not where my focus lies so much, is more in that communication piece versus the whether somebody's lying to me kind of piece. But I think your immediate thought is, oh, you're judging me like I'm on a jury, or you're judging me like I'm interviewing with you or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's so much you said. So as a hero of body language, right, you have this is like the heroic quest issue, which is the hero doesn't know that they're a hero, and they don't know how to tell people that they're a hero. And when you said what your superpower was, I thought you were going to say that your superpower was empathy. But then you said that your superpower was, what did you say? It was observation. And I thought, oh, so I think the way I'm hearing you talk about this is, if we, I guess, tap into we tap into being the power pure of body language, it makes us become more observant, which means now we're probably more present when we're communicating with people, because again, you said 70% of our communication is nonverbal, sorry. And so would you say that this is something that's not negotiable for people to learn? Because I feel like if we could all just see each other, right, regardless of our identity, right? So even regardless of what you call yourself, just to see the full person is important.
Oh, absolutely. You totally nailed it on the head. It is about acceptance. It's about, this is who I am and this is who you are, and we're just going to be in this space together and be present, and not be judgmental about what we're seeing or about things. And it surprises me that we don't spend more time thinking about it. It still surprises me that it isn't a course that everybody goes through in high school or in college or something. It really isn't talked about. And I think before, perhaps maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, before we had the things like technology, before we were so worried about image and things like that, that people just sort of accepted each other, and maybe understanding body language wasn't as important. We weren't as much of a global society either. We kind of moved like the people in our sphere moved. But now that we've become more of a global society, and we are so concerned with what we look like and all of those sorts of things, that the body language piece and being able to relate from that has become something that's become more necessary.
And you just brought in an important point, which we may not have time to unpack, which is cultural nuances, right? So, every culture is different. Some people don't give eye contact as a way of respect. And so I may interpret that as they don't like me. Or, there's just so many different ways to think about even how we are raised in our families, right? So gender norms even. So there's just so much to unpack here. So I want to bring in the fun. So Megan, we're going to do the Fast 5 Finger Favorites. And so, Alison, we're so excited excited. And for those of you who are watching, we invite you to also share with us what your favorites are. But we will get started right now by asking our Power Up hero of body language, whose superpower, by the way, is observation. Alison, what is your favorite book? What do you like to read?
Oh, right now my favorite book is actually up there. I think it's Winning Body Language. I didn't write it, but it's a different. Mark Bowden is another body language expert, and I really like his take on body language, and it's very similar to mine. So that's the one. I've written 2 books, but until I write my really definitive body language book, which I haven't yet, that's the one that I like.
Okay, so I have to bring in that. Yes, we do have your. Right now we have your Amazon page up, which is showing 2 books. So you have written books about body language. Just you aspire to write the mega book, right?
Right. I want to write the real business one or whatever. There's a lot in the books, but translating nonverbal behavior, which is movement, into words is always like. That's why there's so much on my YouTube channel and everything else, because I want you to see me. I want you to see me demo. I don't want to trying to write it down in a book is always hard.
Oh, you and I are totally like cut from the same cloth. Is that what people say? All right. So, Alison, our Power Up hero of body language. What is your favorite movie or something to watch?
Right now, I'm really into The Crown and all the stuff that has to do with the royals for right now. So I've been kind of binging all the little documentaries and things they have on Netflix and everywhere that has to do with the royals. Because that whole thing is just fascinating to me. So, and from a body language side, what they show and what they don't show is just fascinating.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to tell you a little story. So when I first started watching The Crown, my sister was like, Lisa, just go watch The Crown and don't worry about liking it. Just watch the first episode. And they go to Kenya, which is where I'm originally from. And I was hooked by then because like I lived through that. Like it was just so weird. It was so freakingly weird because I wasn't obviously there with the royals, but like I was on the other side of reading it in the news. And anyway, it's just awesome that you said that movie because that show and all that royal stuff because
I can't the next season, when it comes out.
I don't even know what's gonna happen in the next episode in the next seasons because it just got crazy. Megan, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but it's funny that you guys mentioned all this royal stuff because on TV they were showing like a behind the scenes of The Crown, but they were giving like little snippets of why things are the way they are, like why you can't marry outside of the crown and why you have to be of the same like race and why you have to be of the same this and this and that, like all the rules and regulations of living that royal life. And they were like behind the scenes with royal family and explaining everything. And I was like, wow, maybe I need to watch this show.
Megan, I wish I was you because I want to watch it again, like not even ever having watched it. It's that good. It's that good. The Crown on Netflix. That's the promo. All right. So moving on, fast 5 thing of favorites. Alison, what do you like to listen to? What's your favorite song?
Oh, I'm a music theater nerd. So I listen to Sirius XM's music theater channel when I'm in the car and things. And so, Stephen Sondheim, of course, and his songs are so fabulous. And then Lin-Manuel's, Hamilton, is there anything better than Hamilton? So really, that's more my world than pop music ever was or has been.
Yeah. And I mean, I have to say that one song I like, I don't know much about musicals. Sorry, I don't. But the one song I like that I know for sure is a musical is Seasons of Love from Rent.
From Rent.
I love that song. Oh my gosh. And I literally just talked to somebody about it today. So that was kind of interesting. You brought that up.
Yeah, we played it at my wedding. We brought all our friends up to hold hands while they played the song and everything. And then it was sort of embarrassing because we thought it was going to be this really great touching moment but then it was like, it kind of failed in the moment.
It was like in your head, you saw everyone coming together and the hearts were flying. And then it was like, is this what we got?
It was like, this is a really long song. Once we had everybody up there, we're all like, wow, still going.
It's not ending. Oh, we're still here. That's funny. That is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Okay, so our next one is, what is your favorite quote or phrase you like to say or hear?
Well, Peter Drucker, who was an Austrian like management consultant thing, he died in 2005, I think. But one of the things that he has on posters and stuff is the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. And that really, of course, for me is everything, is listening beyond just the words, because you can fake the words all you want, but the body's not going to lie. And so after, you can only control your own body language maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, which is why the like FBI folks and things like that, they have the interviews, but they don't start really drilling down until until they get into it, because you can control yourself for a little while, but afterwards there's going to be things that do leak out, leaking out. And so as much as we think we can control, and that's usually when you figure out that somebody is doing something that's deceptive, or is because you're like, that's weird, you're not acting like yourself, because normally you're just yourself. But the minute you think you're going to control your movements, then you look strange, or you look like a puppet or something, and that's a dead giveaway that you're not being entirely truthful.
Wow, that is a mega tip. So if we're getting interviewed by the FBI, not sure why they would be interviewing us, 5 minutes in, it's just chit chat.
Yeah, just give in, be yourself, because they're gonna break you down.
You're laughing like you work for them. Well, wouldn't be surprised. You're one of 22 in the world, so I wouldn't be surprised if you get tapped. So I'm going to ask you a question based on something I like to do, which is I like to figure out how people wake up in the morning. It's all about centering, figuring out your energy. So today we are so excited to have Alison Henderson, who is our PowerUp hero of body language. Her superpower is observation. So Alison, tell us, if you had the perfect morning, how would you throw those covers off? How would you wake up in the morning? How would you meet the day?
Ooh, the thing that really gets me going in the morning is most people talk about like meditation and manifestation and all of that sort of thing. I like to add the body language piece to it. No surprise there. So one of the things that we've learned, it's not really movement pattern analysis. It's one step removed, which is called Lab-on movement analysis. But it's a series of what we call body scales. And so when I do my meditation, or even before I have a sales call that I might be nervous about or something, or when I first wake up in the morning, if I'm stretching, it's doing a very centering movement scale that I learned years and years ago. But so I connect it to the universe. So I connect with my source, and then I connect to the earth. And then I ask to connect with my clients, or whatever people that I need to call that day, and then I can spread out. I can share my knowledge with them. And then when we go backwards, that's kind of going into the past. So I thank my ancestors and my mentors and everybody that has gotten me to where I am today. And then we propel ourselves forward into the future and start the day. So the mantra and the body language all goes together. So it's just a quick, like 5-minute little centering thing, but I may not even just use it in the morning. Like I said, I might use it in the middle of the day before I'm, anytime that I need to center. It's a really great way that I center. It's a scale that I teach some of my clients too. I say, okay, I'm going to teach you something. You're going to think it's weird, but I want you to try it. And it really does. It kind of centers our mind and our body, brings them back together as one. So that's how I wake up in the morning. I do a little thing in the bedroom before I greet the day, before I get that coffee going.
Wow. I love that, Megan. I want to learn this centering thing. I may become a client.
There you go. Yeah, usually I record little private, messages to people, and I send them links, and I say, here, I want you to try this.
Okay, so if anyone is like me and they're watching, you're going to want to know how to get in touch with Alison. So I'm going to tell you right now before we end the show, because I want to know this some people drop in and then they have to drop off. So in case you just dropped in, this is how you can email Alison so you can learn this 5-minute movement exercise that gets you centered to be ready to be a power up hero of body language to make it through your day. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's that's something that because I was doing the manifesting and I was doing the thing with my coach that was more on the, the head trash side that I've been talking about, trying to get rid of all that stuff. And then I was like, I have to add it to my, to this other part. And so it became kind of one thing. But
it made me think about, like, when you think about, I wrote down like heroes versus villains, right? So we think about how do they show up. So like Clark Kent, before he's Superman, he's in his he's in his office, hunched over, like just does his work with his glasses. And then when he's gonna turn into Superman, it's like this guy who's like standing different. Like now he can see, right? I don't even know what happened to his glasses. But the point is, like, he's a different person. And so do you think that maybe some of it, like as a hero, we need to practice first showing up as a hero, body language wise?
Being open for sure, opening up. And, we know there's Amy Cuddy's famous TED Talk with the arms, but you could do a little of that, but I wouldn't walk into the meeting and do that because then everybody goes, oh, do you have your Superwoman or, Wonder Woman underoos on today because you're standing like this? But it is you have to claim your space. You have to own your space, own your person. And a lot of that comes from having the confidence of understanding what your body language signals are saying to other people. But posture really is number one. If there's anything that I can leave with your viewers today, it's think about posture. We get so cramped that the minute we do this, there's a big difference between, having a meeting like this and having a meeting like this. Just executive wise, people are going to think that you're higher up on the totem pole at the company. They're going to listen to you more because you're coming at them with the presence of, I have something important to say, or that this is really meaningful. So definitely. And the fact that in the standing up too, I'm even coming to you guys sitting down today because so much of what I do training wise, people are generally seated. So a lot of what I do, but standing up behind, getting the raising up your computer and standing up is another great tip. Your posture usually improves, and it's about being able to react. If you're sitting up versus sitting back or stuck in some big black rolly office chair, you can't respond. Your body can't respond in the same way because it doesn't have the room to do that. And particularly virtually, we need to sit back. We need to give people as much body language that they can see as possible. So when you sit up straight and then sit back, your energy will also go up a little bit more. We need to put a little bit more energy into the screen for virtual, which both of you ladies do beautifully because you've been at this for a while. But there are a lot of people that their energy levels are just really low, and then
well, Megan and I definitely love this stuff. So I am like, I've taken 3 pages of notes. I don't even know whether we're going to unpack all of them. But Megan, you got anything? Because we're almost at the end.
I have
we're
so
like
much.
way over time, by the way. It's like
all the time. So much. I mean, we could be on here forever, literally. But I just want to thank you, Miss Alison, for opening my mind to see body language in a different way. I know we could have gotten into so many particulars for sure because they're there, and I have so many questions. So many. But
people should just, email me. I do even first impression sessions where you just, you meet with me and I'm like, okay, these are the people you naturally attract and these are the people you naturally turn away, kinds of things. I do a lot of consults. So, reach out and we'll just have some conversations and see, because, this is what I was put here to do. So people are always like, oh, you give away way too much for free. And I'm like, well, we have to get the word out. People need to know that this is important. So yes, I give away a lot for free.
That is so good to know. My last question for you is, imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now. What do you see?
Ooh, I love this question. My goal, or what I would love to see, is to have a movement studio in downtown Chicago where people could come into me, or the training can happen off-site. so that during the day we do a lot of training, and there's a room next door that's got all the video set up. So we work on their video presence and how to get comfortable turning the camera on. And then at night it turns over into acting classes for theater folks, because I love to work with actors as well. And someday, but we need that acting studio so I can bring in people to teach actors more about, so they're not talking heads and they have the whole body going as well. So during the day it would be all, business, and then at night it would turn into a theater space. So that's the big goal, live upstairs, have the studio below. So.
I love the idea of a movement studio. Everything that we do, I always kind of think of it as being in a lab. Like when we're in Toastmasters, Lisa, it's the speech lab. When we're doing our talent acquisition, talent growth, it's always like the people lab. And so to think of a movement studio where we're in there doing the work, studying movement, learning, I just love that. And I can't wait to see it happen.
Yeah. So that's the goal. So the Chicago has a place to go. all the executives, because it's hard, you go into their space, but they're distracted, a little bit by thinking about getting back versus, getting my hands on them for an hour or two.
Yeah. And I know, like, obviously with everything, it begins very small, but I totally see you that creating a model, maybe, because I love Toastmasters for the simplicity of it. Literally anybody can start a Toastmasters club because there's a playbook. You get in, you do this, these are the roles, you start. And I feel like you could start a movement space and thing, because I can see how people could probably just pick up on what you're doing. So yeah, I definitely think that whatever you do get there, that there's the possibility of people wanting to transplant what you're doing in multiple communities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love to partner. So I like to work with people that don't have the body language piece, but they do the sales piece, or they do interviewing, but they don't do the body language piece. So anybody out there that has, a consulting business, and I'm going to start training trainers here soon too. So over the summer, we're going to start a program if people are interested in bringing that skill set into, maybe they're in human resources and they want to be better at interviewing because they can read the people across from them. So it's the first time that I'm entering into, I've had enough inquiries now of people like, can you just, I really want to learn what it is that you do. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. So I won't be training them in movement pattern analysis per se, but the application in the way that I use it, which is, I think, more practical. So it'll be a very practical training on how to bring this into your business.
Love it. So let's just let people know again how to get in touch with you. So I think when we talked, we have your email address up, but I think people can go to your website. There's also other ways they can get in touch with you, right?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great way. Message me through LinkedIn because I'm on there all the time. I do LinkedIn Lives every Tuesday morning. And so that's my main platform. My TikTok channel has actually kind of popped off. I was commenting about the Harry, Meghan, Oprah interview, and going on like at each commercial break, I would talk about the segment before. So it suddenly I've got over 1,000 followers really quickly, and some of my things have over 500,000 views or something. So you can find my short little snippet things on TikTok. When I think about putting them on Instagram, I do, but then I forget. So yeah, those are probably the main platforms. I do a little bit on Facebook, but much more on LinkedIn.
I love that. TikTok. I guess, you need to go where people are at. I need to get on TikTok.
I was just sort of trying it, and because my son was doing stuff and he got up to 1,000 followers. I'm like, should I be on there? Because I feel old to be on TikTok, but it's they're fun. And if you're worried or don't want to, or feel like everybody says that you should be on video, but you're nervous to do it, it's a really gets you over that because it's only a minute. So just you could do these little minute short things and really get ready for a longer range online interview or something.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh my gosh, TikTok. I need to get all I think about in TikTok is my niece. She does these dances all the time. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing when I get on.
That's why I had to put my son in charge of the posting and the whatever. I was like, you take care of the hashtags and posting and that sort of thing, and record them for me and post them because I wouldn't know how to do it otherwise.
Yeah, I actually caught you also you were featured by giving a review about the Country Music Awards. You gave a body analysis review or something like that.
Yeah, there's a ZergNet or something is like the overarching thing, but they use me as a body language expert on things. And yeah, so I watched the ACM Awards and I was like, you got to tell me who to look at and whatever, because I am not a country music. I don't know who any of these people are. But they quoted me correctly when they wrote it, but then it came across that I was sort of saying that Marin, and her husband like didn't have a romantic connection or something. And I was like, oh, well, because yeah, in their duet that they sang,
yeah,
they were really just, I think, in their heads, and it was the first time they performed the song, and they were trying to do things, and they had these long microphones that I don't think they practiced with. Because like they turned and she's trying not to poke him in the chest, and he's really tall, trying not to like poke her eye out with their microphones. It was just sort of a train wreck. And so I was saying, like, there wasn't anything romantic about that song, because everybody afterwards was like, oh, how romantic. Oh, they're in love and love. And I was like, I didn't see it. So yeah.
Well, but can I say something? You're probably saying what everybody's thinking. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes people say the nice thing when really what they mean is, I don't know about that. Like,
I don't know about that. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be like, well, if they, if it does come out in a few years that they're getting a divorce, I'll be like, I kind of called it. Yeah, it was just, there were just little things, you know. He held out his hand, and she totally missed like the cue to take his hand, and then she finally took it, but then she kind of, you know, turned away from him and then kind of flipped, you know, almost flipped him away. And I thought it was weird. I was like, oh, she's like flipping him away.
I'm gonna go watch.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe they will, you know, I did a LinkedIn, or I did a post, you know, afterwards, like, I'm not saying that anything about, I don't know about their relationship. I'm not judging the relationship. I'm judging the song. The song itself didn't have the romantic feels in it that I was expecting.
Yeah. Oh, well, this was really fun, right, Megan?
Yes, 100% fun.
Yes.
And I know we could have dove in deeper.
Yeah.
There's always so much.
I have stuff written like love languages. I mean, there's just so much that I'm tapping into. Like, I guess, you know, sometimes when I have a toolkit of things that I do, and I can kind of think like, if I want to tap into what you do, I have to pick up on what do I already know and attach it to that. So I was just thinking of love languages is something, right? And even like Megan, remember when we used to teach the birds?
Yeah, I remember.
Was thinking of like, okay, that's another way to know people is by categorizing based off of like, which type of bird are you? I know it sounds like it sounds,
there are so many of those, and they're so helpful.
Yeah,
because it gives somebody something to hold on to. So I teach researchers, judges, and action heroes, because it goes along with the movement that you see from them. You know, researchers want information generally, and so if it's like they're sharing information with you literally with their arms like this, so then that's a signal of information gathering, right? You know, judges tend to move like vertically with a gavel, so that's one of the signals of somebody that's a little bit more judgmental or likes things in black and white. You know, and then the action hero, which is what we had determined that Lisa was, the forwards and backwards, right? Like they're flying through the air. So it helps people remember what the brain connection is without using fancy movement pattern analysis language. So yeah, the same thing, you know, that you're looking for. Do I see more researcher? Do I see more judge? Or do I see more action hero in this person? Yeah.
Goals. Oh my goodness, Allison.
Yeah. So yeah. So reducing the drama and business relationship does go through the 3 types. So
okay,
if people want to look at their researcher, judge, and action hero, that's in there.
So that's the book right there. So getting it on Amazon today. And is it on Audible? Because that's my most favorite way to take books.
I have not converted it to Audible. You're not the first person to ask me about that, though. So that should go on the list. Because
if I have to read it, I have my friend's book here, who's one of my friends, Dr. Kasia. She just got on our show 2 weeks ago. Oh my gosh, last week, right?
Weekend. Yeah.
Look at my calendar. She did it last week. Still haven't even read the first page. So, and it's right here. Like, it's here so that, like, I need to just read, right?
I know. Yeah. It's so much nicer when we put it in our ears.
Yeah. I would have probably already finished it if it was in my ears. There's tons of cleaning and stuff that happens. where she's just sitting here. But you've been such a pleasure to interview and such a joy. I have all these notes. So if you don't mind, please, I promise that you are going to be contacted by me. And I want to know these first 5 things I need to do before I move into the day so I can be a PowerUp hero of body language. And so right there you have it, everyone. Alison at movingimageconsulting.com, our PowerUp hero of body language. Congratulations!
Thanks so much. It's been so fun.
Yeah, you're amazing. And continue being a hero for us. We really appreciate you. You're doing great work in our community. And yeah, make it a great day.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Wow, Megan. Oh my gosh. Okay, she's totally like our people because like we both know that communication is important, but we know that body language is the first line of communication, right? Before the words are even spoken, I think we can tell what people are thinking.
Yeah, everything kind of does mean something. And that's why we have to be careful and considerate and mindful, have that mindfulness intact when we're interacting with each other, because everything does mean something. Everything has meaning, whether you mean it or not. You know, she mentioned, like, I asked her about the whole intention thing, and it's the fact that people don't even know that they do have that intention, but they do have it in there. You're just not acknowledging it yet.
Yes. And you know what's funny is when we teach, I guess in bias training, we really talk about how sometimes it's important to pay attention to, you know, your intentions. Yes, that you have intentions, but it's the impact that matters. Yeah. Like it's how it lands with people, right? So your intention may have been not to hurt their feelings, but you did, you know? Yeah. So pay attention to that. And so I love this whole concept of process of thinking. So I'm even thinking, like, is there a model for that? And I didn't want to get into it because it almost felt like, oh my gosh, we're going to be here for a full day workshop with Alison. So I'm going to definitely want to find out. Maybe if I read her book, Megan, if I read her book, I will learn this. But I want to know about maybe these 3 different people she told us about, right? The researcher, the judge, and the action hero. Their processes of thinking, right? I see a model there. I'm gonna unpack that and see what that is, when that comes in. Oh my gosh, I really love how, you know, I really love how she didn't say that her superpower, which I would have thought would be empathy or even communication, right? So her superpower isn't even communication. It's observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the eye.
That definitely is a superpower, because I think there's a lot of people who think they have that superpower. But
do they?
Yeah, you know, sometimes they interpret things the way that they think that they are, and they are dead on, and they're like, I know this is what they're doing, and I know this is what they meant, and like they're way off. So I think there's definitely a right way to do that, and she's probably the perfect example of observation as a superpower.
Yes, and that's me, the anti-observant, because I will create those stories. I saw them do this. Oh my gosh, they don't like me, and that's it, it's over. Oh my gosh. And then, you know, like they give you an award and you're like, oh. It's just weird, okay? So yeah, I'm that anti-observant who needs to, and so here's the thing I was trying to get at in the beginning, which is perception is reality. Is it reality? Yes, perception is reality. And as heroes, we have to control it, right? We have to control the perception, not only for ourselves, but also for others. So we have to work on it. I need to work on that. I need to work on my mental strength to be more observant, more observant, more meditation so that I can be more observant. Natural empathy. Have you ever heard that? We can tap into our natural empathy. Oh, so many nuggets here, Megan.
Yeah. And one of the other nuggets that I took away, well, it's more thought-provoking than anything. You talked about imagining a world where everybody was an expert at body language.
Yeah.
And I started to think, like, what would that really take? And I think it really takes thinking about the other person first.
Yes.
And I think people are so consumed with themselves, what they're going to say, what they're going to do, how they're going to react, how they come off, the vibes and the energy that they're giving, that they can't be an expert in body language because they're not taking the time to look at the other person. Mm-hmm. I think Alison probably she is the expert at 22, you know.
I know.
She'll agree that body language is like being the expert of body language is a selfless thing. It's all about the other person.
Oh, Megan, you're so good. I literally just like wrote down what you said because what you're saying is gold. It's a selfless act to be the power up hero of body language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the other person. It has nothing to do with you. You're trying to listen to them with their movements. You're trying to understand them with their eyes. You're trying, and so you're researching, you're looking at this person, you're trying to figure out what they're really trying to say, connecting with them.
Yeah.
Has very little to do with you almost, and everything to do with observing the other person.
Oh, and then this one, I have to talk about this, Megan.
Yeah.
We talked about how when we all went to home, work from home, it was like the space shuttle taking off. And then you know what? She was right about the re-entry. That is the scary part, right? When they're coming back and everything's shaking and everything's on fire. That's when, I was going to say a bad word. That's when the SHIT can hit the fan, right? I mean, that's when the craziness is going on. But guess what? Do we watch that as much as we watch the space shuttle take off? No, I don't hear re-entry parties. No, we don't hear of them, right? Yeah. We have to pay attention to it. We're putting the attention on the opposite. It needs to be attention on the re-entry. Oh, I love that so much.
100%.
We need a book on that. She should write a book today about, because I've heard of re-socialization as a thing that people are looking for. How do you train executives and business leaders to re-socialize back into the workplace? Re-entry. And then use that space shuttle analogy. I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's so much awesomeness here. And she said the words, Peter Drucker. We love Peter Drucker, you know. We're all about Peter Drucker here. And yeah, so I think I just have so much more stuff. One of my tasks is to get on TikTok now. And you know what? She's one of the first people who said that she loves that question of imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now. Everyone is usually like, oh, I can't believe you asked me that, you know? Yep.
I am definitely not a fan of that question, but I love how you embraced it.
Yeah, she knew exactly what it was. So it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. And I love it. I love it. And I love the idea of doing first impression sessions. So you just like go to her and she just tells you her first impressions of you. Oh, I love it so much. I want it. I want that. Okay.
You almost had one, Lisa. You almost had one at the very beginning. I read like a book.
She did get me. I was really like so ready. So anyway, there's so much stuff going on here about this person that we just interviewed. So if you're just tuning in, we just interviewed our Power Up hero of body language. We have Carla, who is one of our most amazing TEDx organizers. Welcome, Carla. Yes, Megan, we need to get out of our own way to connect with others. Yes. Oh, it was so much gold. I wrote it down. Thinking about others first. That's how you become the Power Up hero of body language. And with that, Megan, you are my hero, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you for spending your Saturdays with me to unpack all this awesomeness. And I don't think I could have done this interview better without you. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you. I love all my Power Up family, and I'll see y'all next weekend.
Yes. Bye, Megan. Oh, this was such an amazing show. So if you enjoyed this show, I hope you will subscribe wherever you are listening. And if you want to find out more about the Power Up hero that we just interviewed, go to our podcast page, which is poweruphero.org. Again, that website is poweruphero.org. And if you know a role model in our community who deserves to be featured as a Power Up hero, visit our website again, poweruphero.org, and nominate them. And if you are that hero, Carla, if you are that hero, be bold and nominate yourself. You are remarkable, and the world would love to hear your story and hear about your positive attitude and your commitment to being a hero in our community. Again, the website is www.poweruphero.org. Again, be sure to subscribe to Power Up Hero everywhere you're watching and listening, which is YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. Your Alexa can play the Power Up Hero show. We hope you subscribe, and we hope you stay connected to hear more stories about Power Up heroes in our community. So in closing, I just want to let you know that, part of the things that have happened in my life have led me to become the person I am today. And so you need to know that in every situation, you need to just show up authentically as you. I've realized that as much as we try to control the environment by learning maybe what body language we should exhibit when we're there and practicing it and saying, I'm going to sit with my hands on the table, I'm going to do this, you know, you're actually removing yourself from the space. And so be yourself, be free to be yourself. And when you're met with resistance, just be okay knowing that you authentically were yourself, you are authentically being a hero, and you have no regrets at the end of the day. And guess what? You're going to sleep better if you do that. So with that, I'm going to close out the show, and I hope you make today a superhero day by being a power up hero of body language, because our world needs more power up heroes today, more than ever before. Make today a powered up day. Bye.